All right, in this video, we're going to talk about how to build a solo piano arrangement that includes the melody. So not everybody wants to sing when they're playing, even though that's a really important part is connecting your voice to the instrument. You know, for the final presentation, not everybody wants to just play chords and sing. They want to include the melody and have that be a part of the arrangement. So for this, we are going to start, we're going to use the song Don't Stop Believin' by Journey, which was a request from someone in the popMATICS 101 group. They have a student that wants to learn the song to include the melody, and they were curious as to what my approach would be. Now, I have no idea what the student's level is, where they're at, so I'm going to give a variety of different approaches that I might take, and you can kind of decide what's going to work best. Now, this song is it's in the key of E, and what I'll say is that you can transpose a song to the key of C, F, or G, and never move more than a whole step. So if the key of E is too challenging, then transposing this exercise to F would be a great start. Way less black keys that they'll have to deal with. But again, I'm just going to start it in E. And I'll say that this song is all standard diatonic system. It's all this stuff in the back of the book, 1, 3, 6, 2, 4, 5, 7, and the chords that go with those. So if you've been following along and you understand how that works, this is all standard diatonic stuff with some variants and things like that. But there's nothing really that's gonna fall outside the key. So to get started, we're gonna talk about the introduction, and I mean we're gonna hit each section, but the introduction is probably the part that most people are gonna want to learn. It's the it's the most popular part of the song. It returns several times throughout. It's the background during the chorus. And interestingly, the chorus really doesn't hit until way later in the song. It's like after the solo section. It's really towards the end of the song, the whole Don't Stop Believin' part. So this is really the most memorable part of the song, and it's probably what your students are going to want to learn. So I have this in 3 levels almost. And we're going to do this whole series similar to what we did with Area 51, where we build it in 3 stages. So because it's just too much to kind of take in for one video. So let's get started. All right, so again, we're in the key of E. E is part of Unit 1, which means it's a symmetrical scale. So that if we start, we got our 1 WWH, middle key, 5 WWH. So we got the same shape on the bottom as we do on the top. White, black, black, white, white, black, black, white. And now when we look at the chord structure here that we have, this bass line, it's going to start on the 1 to the 5, 6, to the 4, and then we're back to the 1. So that's the harmonic structure that's going on here. We got a 1 chord, we got a 5 chord, we got a 6 chord, and then we got a 4 chord. The second round, we have a 1, 5, and then it goes to a 3, and then we go to the 4 chord. So from there, what we do is we have our 1, 3, 6, 2, 4, 5, 7, the groupings here. So with the 6 chord, as we normally see, we're going to have this 1 structure on top. And then with the 5 chord, with the 3 chord over here, it's an alternate root. So commonly we have 1 over 3 in a lot of songs. 1 over 3 is a little more common, but this is our alternate root. So we're going to have the 5 over the 3. So if we're going to play through this, you can play just the chords to get started. You can play E chord to the 5. And then we're going to go back with an E, but with C sharp in the bass, to get the C sharp minor 7. And then we're going down to A. And then back to the 1 chord, to the 5. Keep the 5, put the 3 in the bass. That gets your G sharp minor 7, and then you're back to your 4. So there's a good way to kind of just get chords going straight away. And they could play that through the verses and sing along if they wanted to. But again, we're going to talk about incorporating the melody. So now, for this intro, it'd be pretty challenging to try to do it right away because it's kind of like an octave stretch here, an octave span that you'd have to do to play it just like the recording. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of do the Area 51 concept here, and really you could start with just that. So if you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's our repeater. So you could play this bass line just with the 51. Okay, so you kind of lose a little bit of the movement, the inside movement there. So, but as just kind of a rhythmic exercise to get used to, because all those bass lines, they kind of all jump in. It's all part of the push, right? It all comes in like on the and of 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. So you can expand out from the 51, start for the E, use the 51, and then move up to bring this F sharp on top. And this is the movement that's going on in the song. Back to the 51 for the C sharp minor 7. And then you could come down to this third here. This would sound good with the 51 too, but we'll assume that the student is okay with kind of moving around a little bit here. And then back to the 51. And then we're going to go to this third here. And then there. So if you can keep that quarter note kind of constraint going, that's a good way to get started. 1, 2, 3. That would be a good way to get through the intro. What you'll see in the second time this intro comes in, I'll just kind of talk about this now because while we're here, you could do kind of the second part of Area 51 Stage 1, which was just moving away from the eighth note constraint, moving away from the quarter note constraint and making an eighth note constraint. Kind of move it that way. And so that's kind of illustrated here on page 2. You kind of see that as the reintro there at the top. So again, once you get through there, now you get to the reverse. And so really for this beginning stage, this first stage, all you really need to do is get kind of the bones, the skeleton of the song here, which is get the melody and get the harmony, the bass note. So you can do this with just 2 notes. So when you have the melody, now one thing I'll say about melody notes in the beginning here, it depends on, again, the student's ability level. If they're really young and kind of spanning this whole octave for a melody might be difficult. You can usually make a few adjustments here and kind of fit everything into like a 5-finger pattern. So if you start with this Just a Small Town Girl. Now for here, Living in a Lonely World, you come down to the 6, meaning the 6th note of the scale. And then here we come down to the 5 of the scale. Now what you could do in there is you could actually take the 5 and the 6 and just make them 1s. So you're altering the melody a little bit, but and then just keep the E here, living in a, and then use it again. And now you've just taken this melody and you've fitting it all into this 5-finger pattern. And then as far as the left hand goes, again for the beginning, just long tones, roots. And that's really the first place to get started with it. In stage 2, what we're going to talk about is finding the notes where we're going to want to add a little bit more to it. Where we're going to want to add some harmony notes, because you're not going to want to put them on every single melody note. But we're going to look for the target chords and where the harmonies change, and add a little bit more. And maybe in some of these rests, we're gonna maybe add some chords to fill them out. So again, from there we go into the reintro, then we go into another verse, which you could do the same thing. And then here we are now in the pre-chorus. Okay, so now we're in the pre-chorus, and we're going to just do the same thing that we were doing before. So if you look at the melody notes here now too, we have, now we're going to an A chord. And we have this, we're starting here. Going down to the E. Up and down the boulevard. Dun, 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 dun. There's like a little bass part in there that's pretty memorable that I like to show students. So here we have we have the F sharp here. Sometimes I'll mark that with a little slash if they need it, just to kind of remind them that it's part of the key signature. So the F sharp, if we look, so we have A, B, C, D, E, F. So that's, A, B, C, D, E, F. We got the 6 on top there. So I might put this in here. I might talk to them about it. So this is really kind of let's make that a little thinner. This is an A6 chord, once we include the melody. So, it's just an A chord. It's still just, it's a 4 chord. It's just a variant on the 4. But if we were going to do like more of a full chord, you could put that kind of, so you'd kind of get that shape, and they get the major 7 kind of on top. You could even do it with like an E structure there, but we'll get more into that later. So again, for right now, we're doing the melody against the bass. So you could do quarter notes. The song is kind of more like 8th notes. But again, just take whatever the student can handle. If they can do quarter notes, that's great. And then you get that little pattern. It's a little tricky sometimes for them to get that, especially when we get later into it, like when we get to stage 3 and we're putting the whole arrangement together. But again, this is really just getting the bones of the song down. You have the repeat from there. So you come back. And then from there, we're taking it into the second ending. So there you'll see I kind of have, I've got it set up right now just kind of like with little rhythm hits so they know how those chords kind of fall in there. Again, when we get to the full arrangement, we'll take all those out. Okay, so then here we are in the solo section, and again, a lot of this is the same thing. It's really cold up here. Let me see if I can do this. So this is the same thing. So you're doing the same thing. You're just holding that down. Now, maybe another thing you could do here too is if the single notes are fine, you could have them start doing fifths in the left hand. So that would be another part. That's another way to kind of fill in the arrangement. And again, so you can start to layer it in. If you feel like they can handle more right away, go ahead. But the whole point is you really want them to connect with that individual melody part and hear the bass part, hear those two opposites. Because again, a lot of students can hear the melody. We sing to that. A lot of people can pick out the melody. We want them to be able to pick out those bass notes too. So just starting with this as like a stage 1, it's a great place to be. Also, if you needed to, again, if it's a really young student, like I have like 6 and 7-year-old students that might want to do something like this, maybe it's just the melody and they're doing it like, pirate hook 2-finger style, and they're just bouncing around the keyboard and they're getting a sense for the distance between notes. So there's kind of another way to kind of do it. And then, this chorus, we're getting to the chorus, and the chorus is kind of, just the same thing like we had before. So we got the tone. And then when we finally get to this outro, this is the outro. This is really how the song goes. So you have this octave stretch. But you can see if we take away that top note, that's really what I gave you in the first 2 parts. So you're still getting all that movement. Now, if you look at a lot of arrangements online, they're going to give you something like, and then when they get the C sharp minor chord, they're going to go here. And that's not really what's going on in the song. It's really more Area 51 style stuff. So that's why I like just starting off with that. And even if you're just starting with the 51, it's totally fine. having the movement in there, like we did in the first section, that's going to be even a little bit better. But again, all right, again, so this outro with, you know, these big chords and stuff, that is, that's, you know, you could, a student's probably not going to get to that like right away. This will be kind of part of our stage 3 final arrangement, like how we kind of piece all that in together. But even from the beginning, it's probably just going to be it's going to be too much of a physical challenge to kind of just work that in straight away. So when we get to stage 3, we'll talk about how to build that in and some practice tips for kind of executing that, you know, so that it stays clean, because it can be tricky with the way that the left hand kind of jumps in with everything. You have the so that bass note kind of kicks there, and then you have to flip the you know, you have to jump the right hand back into a different position. So we'll talk about all that more in stage 2 and stage 3 and how we start to build the arrangement out. But this is kind of a good place to start. Area 51 style exercise for the introduction, and then really just doing long tones in the bass, maybe adding some rhythm, basic rhythm, possibly fifths in the left hand, and then just single note melody line to really separate those two parts. So you get kind of the structure of the harmonic structure, the 1-5-6-4, 1-5-3-4. That's kind of the rotating part until you get to, you know, the pre-chorus is a little different, but that is really your verse and your chorus progression throughout the song. So it's really getting locked in and tuned into what's going on there. And then again, this is the same approach. This is not about the song. This is the same approach that we would take with another song. This is just kind of like the ground zero starting place. Start with your 2 outside voices, and then we'll fill in the middle as we go. So that's it for now. Stage 2 will be coming soon. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next time.